So a couple of weeks ago I finished my first big internship at a major German company. Now on this channel I haven't shared much about my personal life in Germany so far, but in this video I'm going to do something different. I'm going to talk about the entire internship experience, how I landed the role, my learnings, and most importantly, what the work life in Germany is really like. So if you're new here, I'm Max, a computer science and design student and business owner in Munich. Now in my degree program at university, an internship is part of the curriculum. So to avoid any confusion, in Germany internships are a key part of many programs, especially at universities of applied sciences. In general, there are two types of internships you're going to hear about: mandatory internships and voluntary internships. A mandatory internship, like the one I did, is required as part of my university studies. I have to do it to get my bachelor's degree. And these ones are usually longer. They can be from 3 all the way to 6 months. And they are designed to give you practical experience in your field of study. Now, voluntary internships, on the other hand, they are optional. You can do them during semester breaks or after graduation. And they're usually shorter, around 1 to 3 months. So in my case, doing a mandatory internship in the 5th semester actually pushed me to gain practical experience. And at the same time, I still had the support and guidance of the university. I don't know about other countries, but having work experience in Germany is especially important for getting a full-time job later. In my case, the internship lasted 20 weeks, which is definitely on the longer side. So this wasn't just a quick 1-month summer internship, it was a deep dive into the corporate world. Now when it came to choosing where I wanted to intern, right from the beginning I had a clear goal for myself. I wanted to go into a big company. And the reason for that was quite simple for me. I believe that having a well-known brand on your CV early in your career is a huge advantage. It makes a strong impression and can open a lot of doors later. And the way I see it, I can always switch to a smaller company or startup later if I want to. So my application process was very straightforward. I will talk about the process in detail in just a second. So I only applied to major companies, about 7 in total in Munich. And in the end I landed an internship with Allianz. And maybe you've heard of this company before. They are the 4th largest company in Germany and one of the biggest financial service providers in the world. They are well known for insurance and asset management. Because of my university degree, I'm more of a tech and design guy. So I decided to focus on digital analytics and conversion optimization, because it's a field I already had some experience in and wanted to explore more. Now, before you go into an internship, it's good to know what you want to learn. In my case, I wanted to dive deeper into web analytics and user experience. And these two are areas I'm really passionate about and that align with my studies. But it was quite a journey until I got the position. So let me explain the entire application process. So like everybody, I started by searching on job portals like LinkedIn and Stepstone. I would type in keywords like Praktikum, this means internship in German, plus the keywords for the roles I was interested in. And starting on these platforms gave me a good overview of the market, but I also realized that the competition for big companies in cities like Munich is pretty insane. Like sure, there are a lot of companies here, but there's also a lot of talent coming from the 19 different higher education institutions in Munich. So to improve my chances, I also had to focus on networking, which is probably the most powerful way of finding an internship or a full-time job. So there are a couple of ways to do this. Usually, most universities in Germany have partner companies and organize events where you can talk directly to recruiters. But as you can imagine, it's overwhelming for a recruiter when 50 hungry students approach you and almost beg you for an intern position. So I went the second route and also did some networking outside of this university event. So in the end, I applied to a couple of companies through job platforms and also asked around in my network. And one thing I put a lot of effort into is customizing my cover letters. My CV was already well organized and focused on my skills and projects, but I made sure that every cover letter was tailored to the specific role and company. For Allianz, for example, I highlighted my experience in web analytics and UX, which matched perfectly with the job description. The interview wasn't too formal. They didn't ask the usual "what are your strengths and weaknesses" questions. Instead, my future manager wanted to hear about my portfolio and past projects, which was honestly very refreshing. I got some rejections, got some wins, and in the end I decided to go for Allianz. Now during my application process, I once again realized how important German is, even in big companies. When I was searching the internet, I only found one intern position in my field in Munich that was completely in English. Most listings require you to speak German and English. But please keep in mind, your German doesn't have to be perfect. In my team at Allianz, there was a girl who was not a native German speaker. She came from abroad and learned German up to the B2 level. And this way she was able to have normal conversations and do the work without any problems. But it is truly shocking how few jobs or internship positions with only English are out there. So to help you learn German and prepare for your journey to Germany, I made a detailed video about the best way to learn German as a beginner. Check it out after watching this video. I put the link to it in the video description. Now, after the summer break, the first day of my internship came, and when I walked into the office, I wasn't sure what to expect. I would say the building was very impressive. Allianz definitely has a big office here in Munich. And in the beginning, I passed by a lot of people in suits, so I was wondering if I was walking into a super formal environment. You know, when you think of insurance and asset management, you definitely think of these types of people. But when I met my team, I realized it was much more relaxed. At least for us in tech, it was very relaxed without any strict dress code. And the team was actually quite small, just 5 of us plus some additional contractors. And the good thing is that everyone was super approachable. And I also had one other working student in my team. Having someone my age to talk to was honestly a game changer. And to my surprise, the onboarding process was very fast. They introduced me to all the tools and workflows right away, and it was very much like a learn-as-you-go kind of approach. So in the first weeks, I spent most of the time shadowing teammates and meetings and learning new software. Now, my day-to-day tasks were very different. I worked on data analysis, built reports, and collaborated with other teams. It wasn't always glamorous, to be honest, but you know, this is what an internship is for: exposing yourself to the work culture and getting to know a bunch of stuff. So one of the things I realized was that corporate life isn't always exciting. You know, some tasks like working on Excel sheets for hours, this can get very boring. But that's the reality of a big company. There are busy, hectic days when you're juggling a ton of things, and then there are also slower days where it feels like there's not much to do. But it's all part of the experience. Now, one thing I had to adjust to was the commute. My place is about 35 minutes from the office, which isn't too bad, but there were days when the bus was late or didn't come at all. So the team dynamics was probably one of the best parts. There wasn't a rigid hierarchy and we all spoke casually with each other. Plus, the flexibility of the work contract was a huge bonus. I worked from home a couple of days a week, and as long as I logged the hours in my contract, no one micromanaged me. Now, there was one thing that was an absolute game changer: the company canteen. For just €2, I could get a proper lunch. It was so cheap because I got an extra student discount. I mean, they somehow need to reward underpaid student interns, right? Now, one thing I learned from this experience is that big companies tend to be slower. Things take time to move through processes, and that's just how it is. Corporate life is definitely not for everybody, and it's something you need to get used to. The meetings, the hierarchies, and sometimes the monotony. But honestly, it's also a great way to learn how things operate on a larger scale. Getting to know big enterprises is definitely a good life experience, because you can also benefit from the brand and connections. For me personally, it's really important to try out many different things during my studies. Working in a big company like Allianz was nice, but I also want to experience what it's like at a smaller company or even a startup. You know, each environment teaches you something unique. And before properly entering the work life after graduating, I think it's all about figuring out what fits you best. If you want to land an internship position in Germany, I wish you the best on your journey. In case you want to learn German, check out this video next. Love you and stay focused.